Good morning, everybody. I'm Ruchi, and this is Ben, and we are from the Google Photos team.
We built Google Photos to help people solve the problems they were having storing, organizing, and sharing their memories. And now, 3 years in, we're delighted that hundreds of millions of people around the world call the product home for their photos and videos. Here at I/O, we're announcing a new way for you as developers to be able to use this platform to build photo and video experiences that are smarter, faster, and easier to use. In the session today, we're going to dive into some of those new technologies and show how you can use them to bring the best of Google Photos into your own apps. Now, we designed Google Photos and we built the app for the way people use photos and videos today. This means users get unlimited storage, so yes, we can do the inevitable and take 15 photos to capture the perfect sunset, or automatic backup, so we never lose our memories, even as we change devices over time. And of course, we built the product with machine learning at its core. And you heard Sundar speak yesterday in the keynote about the ways in which we're applying AI to help people organize and bring their memories to life. And one of my favorites that the team's been working on is what we call color pop. What this means is the Google Photos Assistant can help you automatically create images like this. And you can see how this effect really elevates the subject in vivid color, fading the background. And if you look closely, the AI has even identified and segmented the flower that this little girl has in her hair. It's pretty neat. Now, these are just a few examples, but of course we all use our photos and videos in different ways. When we look across the apps and devices that are important to people, we see a lot of workflows that are difficult and tedious. Like if you've ever tried to set up a digital photo frame and you're moving files between devices, it's a real chore just to keep up to date. Or how, after you go on a holiday trip, your family memories are handed to you on a USB drive or even a DVD. Like, what do I even do with that? And we're all constantly downloading and re-uploading content between services. Maybe you're posting about your latest adventures and you have some awesome drone footage that you want to include, but it's in 4K and you have to download and re-upload over mobile data. And so we think it should be much easier for people to seamlessly use their photos and videos across all the apps and devices that are important to them. But to solve these problems, we can't do it alone. And that's why today we're announcing the Google Photos Partner Program and giving you as developers the tools and APIs you need to build amazing photo and video experiences for your users. Now, as a developer, we know you want to make your apps engaging and user-friendly. And look, photos are a great way to do that, but often this involves complex infrastructure for serving and having to pay for storage just to duplicate the user's own content. So we think that should be easier too. And so at the core of the partner program is what we call the Google Photos Library API. This makes available some of our best technology to you to be able to bring the best of Google Photos and AI to help solve real problems for your users. And here's Ruchi to tell you more.
Thank you, Ben. All right. Now I'm going to show you how you can use the API to build more engaging experiences for your users. There are 3 main functionalities that the API enables. The first is that it will allow your users to access their library of photos in your products. The second is that you will be able to upload photos to a user's Google Photos library. And third, it will provide the infrastructure you need to enable sharing of photos within your apps. It goes without saying, but all of this requires explicit user consent. So let's hone in on Connect. One of the main things we wanted to solve when building this API is to make it incredibly simple for users to access and experience their photos in their favorite apps and devices, many of which you build. This could be in TimeHop, where once you've integrated your library and given permission to use it, you'll get more personalized and creative reminders of memories to look back on. Or on HP Sprocket. It's a really cute portable printer that will let you print photos from your own library as stickers on the go. While this functionality is fantastic to provide your users access to their library in your products, we also want to help developers surface the right photos a user might need in context. And you can do this thanks to the filters functionality. There are 4 ways you can filter a library of photos. The first is content categories. And that's categories of photos that a user has, whether it's pet photos, selfies, landscape photos, landmark photos, so on. Then there's the date of when the photos were created, so the time period of photos and videos. And then there's the media type, so that's whether it's a photo or video or something else. You can pull those out too. And finally, a personal album a user already has created in their account. OK, time for a question. How many of you here have ever had to do expenses? Raise your hands. OK, full room. Keep them up, keep them up. How many of you would say that you have loved doing expenses? OK, sad state, yeah. Nobody really likes doing expenses, neither do I. But Xero, an app that helps us do expenses, is now integrating with the library API. So what this means is that they can apply these filters I referenced earlier, and they can pull receipt images in a certain time range and surface them as suggestions of expenses I should do. So completing expenses is as simple as viewing the suggestion and hitting tap to submit.
Pretty amazing. Thanks, Ruchi.
Yeah.
So using these smart filters is a really powerful way that you can make it easier for your users to find just the content they're looking for. And I'm going to show you a few code examples. And as the library API is a RESTful API, you can play along whether you're a mobile, backend, or web developer. The first filter, that we're most excited about are content categories. And as Ruchi mentioned, these use Google's computer vision to figure out what an image is about, so you can filter and narrow down results in your app. The API offers many categories to choose from. And as you can see from this example, I can also exclude categories that might not make sense for my use case. For example, an app like TimeHop, which is there to really remind me of my fondest memories, may not want to include pictures of old bills and receipts and other documents from years ago. And filters are a great way to be able to exclude this content. Another way that users explore their content is based on time. And sometimes you'll want to present photos chronologically so you can scroll back in time. But there are other use cases where being able to just jump to the right moment can make it much easier for your users to find their content. As you can see, you can filter by specific dates or date ranges. And you can also combine filters together to be even more expressive. Say I wanted to find all of my birthday photos from years past and put them together in a collage. I could sit there and scroll through decades of photos to try and find just the right pics. Or I could combine a date and content category filter like this. You can see how we've omitted the year here and left it as a wildcard, so it'll match any days on my birthday. And included a content category filter to find those great selfies and birthday celebration moments. It's pretty neat. Of course, you can also filter by other kinds of media types, so photos, videos, or other kinds of content like VR. And you can select photos that are already in an album that a user has curated for some purpose. But regardless of the filters you use, you'll get back a list of what we refer to as media items. And here's what one looks like. Google Photos supports a wide variety of media formats, from the obvious photos and videos to animations and even complex VR and 360-degree images. So for each media item, you'll get back this consistent JSON object. And there are a couple of interesting attributes here. The first is the base URL, and this is what your application uses to access the image bytes themselves, so you can show them in your app. A subtle but really powerful feature of this URL is that it has built-in resizing. So with a simple parameter, you can ask Google Photos to return an image that fits the dimensions or aspect ratio for your device, saving you a lot of boilerplate code. It also makes it really easy to reduce data transfer for users on mobile. The second URL here is a product URL. And what this is a deep link back into Google Photos. This can be really helpful if you want to provide a complete and comprehensive UX with common tasks like cropping, rotating, and even viewing complicated formats such as VR. You can just link out to Google Photos rather than rebuilding all of that code in your own app. And then, of course, there's other metadata, depending on the media format you're dealing with. And what's powerful about this is Google Photos will extract this from a variety of media formats. So you don't have to go through and parse it yourself. You'll have it returned in this consistent JSON object. And so with all of this data together, you're able to build and include the user's content inside of your user experience and make it seamless and fast for them to bring photos and videos into your application, just like the examples we showed earlier.
Thank you, Ben. All right, so Ben talked about how users can access their library of photos in your products. Now, what about when you need to send users their photos? The upload functionality can help you do this. So with the library API, developers will be able to send full resolution photos and videos to a user by adding it directly into their Google Photos account. Let me walk you through how this would work. So this is actually one of my photo albums that I have at home. But accessing all my albums can be extremely difficult. They're buried in dusty cupboards in my house, or they are thousands of miles away at my parents' home. They live in Germany. So it's not going to be very frequent when I get to see them. But I decided to get this fixed. I gathered my albums and sent them to Legacy Republic. They specialize in digitizing physical albums and old media formats like VHS tapes. I hope people have heard about VHS tapes in the room. OK. So once they had digitized it and it was ready, Legacy Republic was able to use the library API, create an album, and upload more than 600 photos they just digitized into my account almost instantly. That means, at the end of the day, I had access to all of my childhood memories and some embarrassing photos that I won't pull up here. But they were all in the palm of my hands, right in the Google Photos app. One thing my physical albums do have, and this is a scrapbook that I had from when I was younger, is a rich amount of information. They don't just hold photos, but they tell stories, at least for me. I scribble little descriptions of things I would think of, the places where the photos were taken, or when they were captured. With the library API, Legacy Republic was able to take this information and bring it into a digital album in Google Photos. So a scrapbook like what you saw turned into this. So having hundreds of photos in one place is really great. But we also want to help users find that exact photo they're talking about in a story. And thanks to the machine intelligence in Google Photos, we can do that too. So let's say I want to show you my photos from the last few weeks. I'll just type in me in the search bar, and I'll get photos of me. You don't look that impressed. I guess, yes, those photos are on the top of my grid, so it doesn't seem as hard. But let's say I wanted to tell you I was a little chubby toddler when I was a baby. I won't tell you how many years ago, but the next example will tell it to you anyway. I could type in me in 1990, and in less than a second, get photos of me as a baby. So I think, Ben, it's time for you to show some of your embarrassing photos.
I don't think anyone wants to see those, Ruchi. Now, I'm going to show you how we can create our own rich albums using the API. But before we do that, a quick poll. How many of you out there have a friend who's an outdoors person? Go ahead, raise your hand. You know the type, they go camping and running and hiking. And you'll know they're an outdoors person because they will absolutely tell you about it at every waking moment. You'll come back into the office on Monday morning and they'll regale to you the epic miles they covered and cliffs and snakes and bears that they had to fight with just to get in for Monday morning stand-ups. I have a confession to make. In my team, that guy is me. And so to prove this to my colleagues, a few months ago, I went for a hike in central outback Australia. It was a pretty memorable trip, so I built a little app to track my progress and take a few notes along the way. And now we're going to try and save it all in Google Photos. So the first thing we'll do with the API is go ahead and create an album. Simply send a post request, and you can specify the title of the album. And in the response, you'll get back an ID, which we'll use in just a second, and a product URL, which is, again, a deep link so you can show the content in Google Photos. As you can see, the album's empty for now, so let's fix that. Second step is to upload the actual image bytes to Google's servers. Because we support a wide variety of media formats, you typically won't need to worry about transcoding between formats. You just upload the bytes, and the service will give you back an upload token. And we'll use it here in the create media item call, as you can see. We'll also fill in the album ID that we just created. And at this point, you're probably thinking, OK, thanks, Ben. We've talked a lot, done a lot of plumbing, moved some IDs around. How about you show me something interesting? Well, a big benefit of Google Photos is being able to search by what you remember. Some of this happens automatically, thanks to the AI. So I could search for the Eiffel Tower and find pictures I've taken of the Eiffel Tower. But there are some things that only you or your app knows. In this case, I'm taking a photo of an area my friends told me to go and look at called the Pound. And it's colloquial, it's not on the maps. So only I remember it. But I can put it in the description with a few extra details. And you'll see that this then becomes searchable in Google Photos. And all that context is stored right with the image. So I can see it again in years to come. This is a great tool you can use in your apps. Maybe you're building a game, and you want players to be able to save their favorite moments and include the player's name or the level that their character was at. Or maybe you're just delivering marathon finish line photos and want to be able to remind the user of the great time they got. But let's be honest, individual photos aren't all that interesting on their own. So through the power of this clicker, we'll add a few more. Now, we mentioned earlier that you can create rich albums that contain text headings, locations, maps, and even control the album layout. And in Google Photos, we call these features album enrichments. Because there's not a whole lot else to do in the desert, each day I took a few notes about the track. And now using album enrichments, I can group together my photos to tell a meaningful story. To do this, we'll go ahead and call add enrichment and create a text enrichment. And finally, specifying the position for the enrichment to be displayed in the album, maybe after the last photo I took each day. And as you can see, this creates headings and dividers, and our album's really starting to come together now. There are other kinds of enrichments you can add too. I could add individual locations or even maps that describe the journey. And this can be useful for all sorts of applications. Maybe you're an amusement park and you want to be able to deliver photos from the rides that someone's just taken in the park. Or maybe you're just trying to document the progress of a project, like building your first home or seeing your child's art project progress throughout the school term. But for my hiking app, the finished product looks a little bit like this. You can see it's nicely laid out with all the context safely stored in my Google Photos library. And hey, now I can easily share it with all of my friends and colleagues back in the office.
Yeah, I think we've seen too many of Ben's hiking photos, but Ben did queue up the perfect segue to talk about the sharing capabilities that the Library API offers. Did any of you go to the I/O block party last night? So you may recall, yes, I see some of you, you may recall seeing this arcade photo booth. Now, the photo booth was really fun, but what Ben and I were most excited about was that it was integrated with our Library API. So what this meant is you didn't have to fight over who gets that one physical copy, that token from your photo booth. Instead, an attendee would get a one-time shared album where they can gather all their photos and videos that have just been captured right on the device they're using. And something to note is the attendee doesn't have to have the photo booth app or Google Photos to get this link. You can also bring the sharing functionality and make it work inside of your mobile apps. So let's take a look. Here's an app for a soccer club. Players are discussing where to meet up, sharing scores from the latest games. But to share photos today, they have to close this app, open another app, and then invite the same group to share photos. This doesn't seem that efficient. And so with the library API, these players will be able to upload photos as they happen in the same conversation. So everything can finally happen in your app. Let's take a look at this code. With shared albums, you'll have the option to turn on or off comments or allow users to collaborate, so add their own photos into the album. In the response, you'll get a shareable URL. These are deep links that open to Google Photos and work across any platform. And you get back a share token. This is what you will use to invite people to join the shared album from within your app. It's what I showed you in the soccer example. Now, you need to show your album in your app, right? And to do this, you send a GET request. And you'll get back a list of shared albums that a user has joined. So I'll pause on the screen. The list you'll also get will show attributes like the title and cover photo, which you'll be able to build into your UI. OK. The sharing functionality really comes together in this final use case I'd like to walk you through. But first, let me tell you a little story. A few years ago, I decided to gift my grandfather a digital photo frame. I felt like a really good granddaughter, and he loved it. Grabbed a USB drive, put in 10 photos, and there it was. But years later, as many of you have experienced, my poor grandpa is watching the same 10 photos on rotation over and over and over again. Now, Nixplay, they create beautiful digital photo frames, and they're integrating with the library API to hopefully help me fix this issue. Let me show you how it would work in this context now. To get started, we would create a shared album in the Nixplay app. And they can do this because they're integrated with the library API. You can also pick an existing album you have in Google Photos, but let's go through a new album creation flow. So you can invite people, your friends and family, to collaborate in this album. And then you can select that album to be the main one you want displayed on the frame. After that, it's simple. As friends and family add photos to that album, they'll automatically be displayed on the Nixplay frame you have in your home. So I did put this to the test, and I connected my grandfather's Nixplay app to my shared album that I already had with him. I put photos in there when I'm thinking of him or missing him as I travel the world or just sitting at home in San Francisco. So once we connected it up, as I decided to share photos with my grandfather, he has a front row seat to these moments in his home all the way in Delhi without having to do any extra work.
Thanks, Ruchi. So we've shown you today 3 great ways that you can use the library API to bring the magic of Google Photos into your apps. We showed how you can create seamless connections that allow users to bring their content into your product and service, and use smart filters to help them find just what they're looking for. We talked about how you can use the upload functionality to create more mobile-friendly ways of delivering content to your users. And finally, we talked about how you can build deep, engaging sharing experiences right into your apps. We've also aimed to take a lot of the hassle out of building a seamless UX with features like automatic thumbnailing and deep links that allow you to focus on what makes your app unique. And all the API services we've talked about today are available right now in developer preview, which means you can activate the API and start building right away. You can head over to developers.google.com/photos, which has full documentation, and we have samples on GitHub to help you get started. Now, we've been working with some amazing early partners, and the demos we've shown are a preview of things to come. But if you're inspired by what you've seen, you can also find a link on our website to express interest in joining the partner program for your own product. Now, I do want to point out that we care very deeply about the experience that Google Photos users have. And that's why every company we work with is expected to meet certain app quality guidelines. And we also have strict privacy provisions that govern how you can use the data that users agree to share. We take those rules very seriously. And so as your app grows, you can expect a few check-ins from time to time with the Google Photos team. Finally, we really value your suggestions as developers. And so as you start to explore the API, please get in touch through our developer channels and give us your feedback. You can also come along to the Photos office hours here at I/O and meet with the team directly to talk about your app. But that's it for this morning's session. We're really excited about the road ahead and look forward to working with you to develop great products that work with Google Photos. We've been Ben and Ruchi. You've all been a wonderful audience. Thanks very much. Have a great I/O.